Maui Invitational Tournament has arrived. Anthony Black has also arrived as the Arkansas Razorbacks defeat the Louisville Cardinals by a score of 80-54 in a game that the part of you wants to say it was closer than that, but it wasn't really closer than that. That's midway through the second half. It wasn't closer than that. It was a wild game. It was a fun game, especially the second half. And I think even from the jump when it was close, uh, Arkansas struggled a little bit offensively until they started going on breaks and attacking the rim and that kind of stuff. But throughout the entire game, Arkansas's defense was absolutely amazing. They didn't look bad on defense at any point. And
Yeah.
so it's a good win. I know Louisville's struggling. I know they're rebuilding, but Arkansas did what you're supposed to do, which was not mess around, and they went in there and decisively beat down a team. Jake, if you want to give a little bit of a recap for those who maybe I know some people watch these videos and I don't know maybe they don't have ESPN and that kind of stuff, but they have YouTube and they only watch the games that they can watch, that are on
Yeah,
CBS
we
or
were
something.
reading some of the comments. Some people said that they don't get to watch the games because they work in the evenings or, whatever. Some of these games are on weird networks and at weird times, and they're not available for your DVR or whatever. But so maybe we thought we might just start giving a brief overview before we start getting into the individual takes on the game. But this game, pretty much to me, it looked like if Arkansas gave maximum effort, they probably wouldn't lose very often if they played Louisville 10 times. I mean, Louisville's not a bad team. They were just a little bit outmatched with Arkansas's talent, and they would be capable of beating Arkansas, but Arkansas would have to uh, mail it in a little bit in order for them to be able to, and they just have to have a special game. But it didn't. I mean, starting off, Arkansas actually is weird for as many points as they ended up with, and as well as they ended up playing offensively. It didn't start out that way. The first 10
No.
minutes were actually really ugly and boring. I mean, it was like you said, it was good defense on both sides, but also missed shots. And I mean, I think with 10 minutes gone, it was like 6-10. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
pretty ugly. Like the turn looking like if it kept going this way, it was going to be one of these 40-point finishes, But and Arkansas pretty much at halftime, it was an 8-point game. And then in the second half, the beginning of that, they still didn't take off. And it was like they actually pulled it within, I think, 5 at one point. But then after about the 15-minute mark, and it wasn't a coincidence, Arkansas had been playing ridiculously aggressive defense. You could tell Louisville had this 1 point guard that Musselman had certainly put the mark on him as the guy that we wanted to stop, and they put Devo on him, and Devo just hounded him. I mean, he couldn't catch the ball without exerting a lot of
Yeah.
effort just to get the ball in his hands.
Devo,
And by the
Devo, I think Devo had 2 points tonight, but Devo played great.
yeah, and then so then after it was just it built up on them. They got exhausted, and then there was a run of you know, there was a run of like 6 possessions in a row where Arkansas got dunks, and a couple of them were turnover, and run out kind of highlight dunks. And they hit a couple of threes, and then they just started to pull away. And at this point, they were still already up. They had kept it 8 to 10, 12 points, and then it just ballooned to like 20 and then 30.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I don't know if they actually ever got to 30, but they got close. They got to like 28.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was all downhill in the last 10 minutes, and that part was spectacular. I mean, they had multiple highlight reel type dunks. And anyway, but individually, it was a little bit unusual. Like it was definitely a different game than the ones they've been having. Brazil got in foul trouble and didn't have a great night because he was off the floor a lot. And even Council, who played really well, played good defense, scored when he needed to, but it wasn't those two guys leading the way. It was certainly Anthony Black, and then everybody else other than him was just kind of. If I'm guessing, I actually haven't looked at the stat sheet, but I'm guessing it's Anthony Black is way. I think he had 26, and then probably everybody else had 6 to 10 points. A bunch of
Yeah.
bunch of people.
Yeah. So you end up with Anthony Black had 26, Ricky Council had 15, uh, Mikhail Mitchell, so the other Mitchell that doesn't get as many minutes, plays 20 minutes tonight, partially due to Brazil being in foul trouble, and he was playing really well. He ends up with 12 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. I mean, he played great. So he ends up with
Mm-hmm.
12 points. Uh, you have Jordan Walsh has 7 points. Makai Mitchell has 5 points, 6 rebounds, and Jalen Graham in only 6 minutes has 8 points. So so whatever that's worth. You had some other guys that played a little bit, but that was your
Some of those, like I think 6 of those Graham points were in garbage time.
just dunks, and he did have a rebound that he ripped down, and no one wanted to block him out,
I
and he just
mean,
went there and got it, and then went back up and
and
crammed
and
it.
I didn't know. I honestly, I didn't know he had it like that. Like because for something
Yeah.
about him, he doesn't look as gangly as
Hmm.
Walsh, Brazil, or Council. And yeah, I was surprised at how high he could jump. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, dude, he got his face up at the rim
Yeah.
on that rebound.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
mean, but at the end of the day, and actually, it's weird because you might be like, oh, like Anthony Black probably really got like tore it up there in that run. He did facilitate that run, by the way. Anthony Black finishes with 26 points, um, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals. Uh, but he facilitated a lot on that. Uh, but really, it was when the game was in the first half and the beginning of the second half, when the game, especially the first half, when the offense looked a little junky, that Anthony Black just said, "No, I'll just start shooting threes." Apparently, so Anthony Black hits 3 threes,
Mm-hmm.
in the first half. Uh, when he shoots 9 of 11 from the floor. So he only missed 2 shots. Both of those were threes. He was 3 of 5. Hits five was 5 of 5 from the line. Uh, his defense, that all sounds great. That's all like good offensive numbers and stuff. But dude, defensively, he was out of control. I mean, he was an absolute beast on defense. I mean, this was like I felt like this game was sort of. And I thought lots of guys played good. I thought Devo's defense was incredible. He finished the game with 2 points, 5 assists, but he played 32 minutes and just was. I mean, if you want to know anything about Devo, all you gotta know is when they're up, but a ball goes back court, and there's two Louisville guys that have a better angle on the ball than Devo does, and who ends up with that ball? Devo does, because he puts on the Jets and then throws himself onto the floor in a way that I would have broke 4 ribs. It just slides and then makes a bullet pass to a guy. I mean, that's Devo, right?
And it was those were the kind of plays that was the exact. He was doing what they should have been doing. They got the ball tipped out of Anthony Black's hand, and it was something they needed badly because the game wasn't out of hand yet. I think there was a 12-point lead at that time. There was like, I don't know, maybe 13, 14 minutes left, but they could have really used a run out dunk, a turnover, run out dunk, pull the game within 10, and then play some defense. Uh, they needed a spark bad, and that could have been it. And instead, 2 guys assumed the other guy was going to hustle for the ball because it was kind of between them. And if you didn't see the game, it was I mean, if either one of them had given even minimal effort, they were way in. I mean, they were probably 17 feet closer to the ball than Devo was. But Devo, probably not in his head thinking at all that he was going to get the ball, but thinking I got to get down there and play defense just in case they miss it or whatever, and just immediately doing the balls on the floor, bolt into action. And those guys both were kind of like, oh, you're going to get it and I'll run ahead. And then by the time they decided, oh, no, me, it was too late. Devo was already even with them. And then he had full momentum and dove on the floor and got it back to Black. And yeah, that was an indicative play of the way he was all game. I mean, obviously Anthony Black was the player of the game, just,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, statistically. And like I said, he all game long played great. But player of the game A1 was definitely Devo. Because they had that guy that was, you could tell, the heart of their team. He was their best scorer. He was their facilitator. They're just one of those teams that have a guy that, I mean, it was basically like Arnote. You could tell they needed him to get 20 and also cause another 20, and they just didn't allow him to do anything. And Devo was, I mean, he was in a defensive stance like it was too low. His like ass was on the floor half the time.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so low, and yeah, he just played so with so much effort. That one time when he went between his legs and turned the ball over,
That's just Devo, man.
it's just it was silly, but at the same time, you could tell Musselman was even just like, if you hadn't been playing so hard up until this point, you'd be sitting on the. I mean, for sure, sitting on the bench. I mean, he pulled what's his name out for not getting out, not
Yeah, Walsh. Yeah,
it's sagging too much off of
yeah.
the on
And
that
Walsh was
screen.
playing, and he was playing hardcore defense too. By the way, he just
But
made one mistake.
he gave them a good look at a three by not getting out there far enough. And it was that was early in the game when like it was like a 5 point game, and I think that maybe even brought it within two or something. So it was like a momentum thing, and he pulled Walsh out immediately, and he would have pulled Devo out on a normal day, but like that silly mistake based on, and I like that in a coach. It's like look at him like, why did you do that? But at the same time, I'm gonna let you do that if, and I'm not, I don't want you to don't do it again, but if you're gonna put in that much effort, I'm not pulling you out because you're
Yeah,
given everything,
yeah. And by the way, it was I was really glad to see Walsh in that starting lineup. So Walsh plays 28 minutes. He looks fine. I guess we didn't say this. No Nick Smith again. By the way, though, I like Nick Smith's energy on the
Yep.
bench. I mean, that's a teammate right there, right? I
You
mean,
just got to be killing him not to play.
I
He looks so competitive.
yeah. I mean, he's being there for it. He ain't sulking.
Mm-hmm.
So he's cheering hard. You know, to me, I really thought, it was weird too, because in this game you have a game like this, and yeah, Trevon Brazile only plays 15 minutes, and now part of that was he got two early fouls and then sat most of the first half, and then kind of didn't play a ton in the second half. I think that's probably a little bit of a strategy. Is they were doing fine without him. They got to play again tomorrow. They got to play again on Wednesday, and I think Musselman was probably like, hey, if there's a guy I can keep, maybe I'll have Brazil come in and we don't need him right now, and they're gelling and it's fine. So I think I was actually surprised that there weren't more that he didn't take some of the starters out earlier than he did. Now he took them out, around 5 minutes left or so. But it was way out of hand. I was kind of only because of the schedule. I thought, man, take these guys out, man. Don't get anyone hurt, and they're gonna let them rest. But whatevs. I thought that this game was the game where you saw, because we talked about it, like, man, Anthony Black looks good. His defense is awesome. Like, he's so long. He plays really hard. The rebounding, like the stuff he can do as a 6'7" guard is different. I think this was the game where you're like, oh, that's why you're like, people have you on draft boards and stuff. Like, you saw like all the, and it's not going to be like that every game, but you saw like, oh, you saw the potential there where you're like, oh, you're nasty. Like, you have like so much stuff in your toolbox that is like raw, but there's so much there to work with. Cause dude, he did have some passes that were just, he had some great, I mean, because of that hype, man, he's just seeing over the top, but man, his ability to drive and then just like pinpoint, you know how hard this pass is all the way across court with a defender on you, just bullet to the other corner kind of, and just right on the money. He did that multiple times. I mean, throwing oops, of course. And then even when he made mistakes, there was one time where a guy straight picked his pocket and he just went and just ran down and took it back. It took it right back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and it's mostly based on how young he is. Like, I mean, it's stupid how young he is. Like if he was 24, you'd be like, I don't know. I mean, he's not going to get a whole lot better, but like, dude, the difference between a player
He's like
that's
18.
that's
So he's gonna get a lot
18 out of
better.
high school, I mean, in the next 3 or 4 years, he's going to get way better. He's not, his brain isn't even all the way developed yet. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, so yeah, he's got a lot of potential, and his body and skill set are very. I think he. I mean, unless something happens, if he wants it, I definitely think he's got a pro career.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing that's annoying is that he's on draft boards right now. I don't like it. I don't like that I mean, you see, if you look at Google NBA mock draft that has first and second round, you're going to see Nick Smith Jr., Anthony Black, and Jordan Walsh. All three of them are on those draft boards. I don't like that. Like I said last game, I'll give you Nick Smith, but like I'd really like to have Anthony Black and Jordan Walsh hang around a little while.
Yeah.
But I thought this game was like the sort of Anthony Black coming out party where you realize that. Oh, and I think you realize too, like he's a legit point guard. He can play that spot. I mean, even at that size and stuff. And I think when Nick Smith comes back, that Nick Smith, well, I mean, he'll have the ball in his hands a lot, but he'll probably be more the two guard.
Yeah, I think Anthony Black will probably face a team sometime this year that has that, like a 6'2" super fast point guard that he may struggle to dribble against if they have a guy that's Devo playing defense on him, somebody who's not small, I mean obviously not as big as him, but a little bit lower to the ground and a little bit speedier. I mean his handles probably need to get a little bit better. Just I mean he doesn't turn the ball over or anything, but you just sometimes when guys press up on him, he's just so
the
big.
The ball's got a long way to go from the floor to his hand. Yeah,
yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, he's just tall. So that could be, but I mean, so far so good. And
but I don't want to be on the reverse end of that. If you have that guy, I don't want Anthony Black, dude. You don't want Anthony Black guarding you. If you're a guard, you don't want it. Like because you might be like, well, what if he was guarding someone that was super fast? It don't matter, dude, because he's just too long. You just play off you a little bit. Like it's like you just don't want him guarding you.
I kind of thought, because when I saw Devo guarding their best player, I kind of thought, I wonder why he doesn't have Anthony Black guarding him, because Anthony Black's even longer than Devo. And I thought it must be a speed thing. Like he's worried about this guy getting around him. But as I thought more about it, because then Devo got in foul trouble and Anthony Black did take that guy, and he did just as well as or better than Devo did. I mean, granted, now Devo had to guard him for the 15 minutes when he was absolutely fresh and he was already worn to a frazzle at that point. But still, it's like, well, no, it's probably more of I mean, I'm just guessing, but it's probably more just Devo's not as valuable on offense. So if he does get in foul trouble, you don't want Anthony Black guarding their best player, getting in foul trouble.
If you have a guy like that, you're like, hey, don't let him go anywhere. Like, Devo was not worried about anyone else. If you have a player that you're like, hey, you're guarding him and don't worry about anything else. Obviously, Anthony Black is probably more of a defender that you would like to be able to help and stuff. Devo was like, this is my assignment, right? And so I could see that where it's like, who would you rather have in help defense? Well, Anthony Black, obviously, because like he could guard more kinds of guys because he's so much longer and bigger, and so he could switch stuff. And so I think that makes sense. But yeah, it definitely wasn't because Anthony Black couldn't guard him, because he most certainly could.
No, I had that thought for a second. Then I was like, no, it's definitely probably more. Also, like I said, the amount of effort that Devo was putting out was going to limit his, obviously.
You saw Devo took four stats. Like Devo took the 4 shots the whole game.
Yeah, like it was going to limit his ability on offense because he's just putting all of his energy, and you don't want Black to take that position necessarily, even though he still played with great effort on defense. But it's just
everybody. By the way, everyone on this team played hard on defense. The defense was great. It was really, really good. It's probably going to keep Arkansas from getting blown out almost ever, because they're going to lose some games, but it's hard to imagine that you can play defense like that and just get absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, actually, speaking of getting destroyed, I mean, it's not 100% clear yet, but the 30-point Texas loss picture is starting to become a little bit clearer. Turns out Texas is really good.
Yeah.
And they're beating good teams by 25 points. And when you consider you're playing a scrimmage game and you don't play all your best players, and some of your players you pull out early to give other guys a chance, you can easily see where you could. Yeah. I mean, Texas seems like they might be legit.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, so Texas goes. We talked about this last time, but Texas blows out Gonzaga by 20, and it wasn't even that close. And then Gonzaga turns around, you're like, well, I don't know, maybe Gonzaga's not that good. Is Texas awesome, or is Gonzaga like just Gonzaga? So they came in hyped and they're ranked number 2, but they shouldn't be there. Then Gonzaga turns around and smacks Kentucky around, and so you're like, well, I don't know. I guess Gonzaga is pretty good. They just like now you might be asking
And
questions about Kentucky, but still, what it means is that like I don't know. Seems like Texas is like Gonzaga's probably good because they're Gonzaga. I'm sure Gonzaga doesn't suck. I'm sure Kentucky doesn't suck. Like, but what I do know is that Texas is just throttling people. So yeah, it makes you feel a little bit like, all right,
yeah, I think Gonzaga's good. I think Texas is really good, and I think Kentucky is
going to be good.
not that good right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like they, I mean,
That's been story of Kentucky the last few years.
yeah, and I don't, maybe not that good's too harsh. I mean, they've already had. I think that they lost to Michigan State, right, and in double overtime. But Michigan State's good, and
Mm-hmm.
although I mean at the time it felt like a bad loss because Michigan State wasn't ranked and Kentucky was like ranked
Mm-hmm.
eighth or something like that. But those numbers at this point in the season are completely made up. Like
Mm-hmm.
nobody knows how good Michigan State is or Kentucky is. It's just based on the guys looking at players and
Who they
maybe who
brought
you
back, who they
return.
recruited
Oscar
in.
Shibwe's there,
Yeah,
so they're
yeah,
number 8.
yeah.
But yeah, I think Kentucky's struggling, but they will be. Calipari will get those guys playing great, and but yeah, it just looks like Texas is maybe the team, possibly.
Dude, what's I have to keep telling myself this as I watch these games, especially in points where they just look amazing, where the defense looks like there was a stretch there where the defense looked so frustrating to play against. It was just turnovers and turnovers and turnovers. And you're like, golly, that defense is crazy. And then the offense, and it's just like running out dunks and stuff. And you're like, man, I think we're pretty good. And then I have to remind myself, oh, yeah, we don't have a guy that's projected to go in the top 5 in the draft on the floor
I'm
right now.
sorry.
We
I'm
don't.
sorry if you hear a bunch of I've got a bunch of kids
That's
over
fine.
and
Yeah, it's
they're like
good.
screaming stuff.
But I keep reminding myself that there's a guy that's projected to be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft that's coming. That's not playing yet, and like I don't know, man, because Muscleman teams get better, and this is a pretty good start for a
Mm-hmm.
team that for a coach whose teams always get better. Missing their best player, I mean, you got to think that the end of the season, if Nick Smith comes back and like, he's all good and everyone stays healthy, you're like, man, that ceiling seems awfully high, dude.
Yep, I agree. I mean, it's a little bit of an unusual team, but like it always is with Muss. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, but it's definitely the most. There's the most high end that we've. I mean, by far, because I mean, like I said, a lot will depend on health. It always does, but we've also got some bench players. I mean, obviously they're not as good, or Musselman, there's something about them. Maybe it's their defensive hustle, or maybe it's, some of their just little fundamental things. But like when they're, I mean, Billis was talking about it during the games. Like the guys we have on our bench are good too. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
we've got guys that can come in and play, or that should be able to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you even have, for the first time in a long time, like you could maybe have one of those guys go down and not have it destroy your season the
Yeah.
way that it did when, like Note gets hurt or something.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
I mean, this has
not.
got to be a team like personnel wise. That this is what Muss wants to do, and this is what I love about Muss. Muss wants to be an elite defensive team. That's what he wants to do, and he's got the personnel to be. Like, this has got to be the best defensive personnel he's ever had, right?
For sure, bodies.
Yeah,
I mean, absolutely, capability for sure.
yeah. Just like raw. Like if you want to, like if all the players buy in, you're like, dude, there's no reason this team can't just make your life miserable. And right now, that's exactly what it looks like. Especially when you see them lock in, it looks just. I mean, I've played a lot of basketball in my life, and you're just like, oh man, that looks terrible. Just guys that like
Well,
a bunch of dudes that aren't like that are long, that are all up in your like. I'm a long guy, and so I've guarded a lot of different kinds of players because I'm long. But if I'm guarding like guards or fast players, I play off them because I'm long and I can. Imagine, though, I can only imagine it because I can't do this. If I was like, oh yeah, I'm also not worried about anyone ever going by me, and that's how these guys play, like Walsh and Anthony Black and Devo and those dudes at Council. They're like, I ain't worried about no one. No, I'm not. No one's going around me, and so now you have a
Hmm.
dude that's all that length is all up in your business, and he doesn't think that you're going to. He's daring you to put the ball on the deck.
Well, and it's their leaping ability because we've had bodies in the past that are 6'7", 6'8", 6'10", and longest, but like not all of them can jump over the backboard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like every one of these guys is a crazy athlete too, on top of just being a good long, basketball body on top of that. And that's not always the case. Not everybody that's 6'6" can freaking jump and windmill dunk it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They can't. I mean, they can probably dunk it, but not everybody can do what those guys are doing. I mean,
No.
yeah, it's and we've talked about this before too. A little bit, he having a little bit deeper bench from a coaching perspective allows you to. It's almost like parenting or something. Like I mean, Muss is pretty hardcore and rigid about his discipline, but let's face it, back like when Mason Jones is getting almost getting a technical. I can't remember, at the end of some game he made a big three and then was like shouting at the crowd, or I can't remember exactly what it was,
And
but
taunting
the
the
game wasn't
bench,
even,
something.
yeah, it wasn't even over yet. Like they still had a chance. It was like a 2 point game, and I think he did sit him for like the first 10 minutes of the next game. But dude, like with that team, your hands are tied. You know what I mean? Like, and so your threats are only have so much behind them. When it's like, when you tell your kid, I'm gonna throw that phone in the garbage, it's like you, you're paying $30 a month for this. You're not throwing it in the garbage. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you can't
yeah.
make certain threats, and it's but with bench players, it allows you to be like, this is the standard of effort. And if you don't play with this standard of effort, you will sit and the other guy will come in, and it makes them competitive against each other to where they all know. It's like
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Walsh knows if he makes a stupid mistake on defense, he's sitting down. Brazil will come in. That's fine. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like I said, apparently, I mean, we're kind of, it's a little bit of supposition, but it's maybe probably some of that's why Graham doesn't have as many minutes,
Mm-hmm.
is some of those things. But
I did
yeah,
see
no, I
one
mean,
thing, and I'm interested if you observed this and what your take on it was. There was a Mikel Mitchell had a block, really nice block, and then it looked like he was gonna walk over and kind of like taunt the guy, which is
do
like,
the Brazil thing to
yeah,
that
which
guy.
is which you can get teed up, and it looked like Devo like chewed his head, like grabbed him and was chewing his head off about it. Is that what it
Yeah,
looked like to
I
you?
couldn't.
It didn't look like Devo was being like nice block. It looked like he was like yelling at him like we aren't doing that.
It's so hard to tell because it's so hard. The same thing happened when um, Graham.
What did you think it was? I thought it
I
was him
honestly,
telling. I thought it was him, Devo telling him like, "Don't like, we're not doing that."
I want to think it was probably both. It was probably like, hey, you're a badass. Yeah, you're a badass. Like, but you got keep your head in the game. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little bit of both. Like you're the man, but focus
Which I
or
like if that
something.
is it from Devo, being the upper, like he's the junior, he's been there. I mean, he's a leader, right? So he
Mm-hmm.
need like I like that because it seemed like I think
Well,
I saw him doing the same thing with Graham. Actually, it was Black, Anthony Black. I think Jalen Graham got called for a travel, which I know was frustrating to him because he got called for like two travels the game
no, that's what I was
before.
gonna say.
But and it looked like he was like, and Anthony Black looked like he was trying to be like, "Hey, it's all right," and he looked like
and then he
really
hit him in
mad.
the chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, he like hit him in the chest. But honestly, it's such a snippet, and guys are so weird. I mean, dude, guys when they do something good look like they're assaulting each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like the better the dunk, the harder you're going to get hit in the chest. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's wrong with you? I mean, sometimes they literally, like, it looks like there's no difference visually if
Mm-hmm.
you played it to an alien between the guy
Yeah.
dapping a guy up for a great block or dunk and somebody getting ready to get into a bar fight because you're looking at his girl. Like it's like a shoving match. And I couldn't tell if Graham's attitude was like mad at himself and he was like giving like his, just where his arms were. He was like, "Yeah, I know, I'll get it." Like an appreciative chest. Like I got you. I hear what you're saying. Or if he was like being a baby, and was
Yeah.
like pushing him away. I couldn't tell. And there's such different,
Mm-hmm.
things that like I don't want to uh, say that one or the other. At first, I rewound that one like 3 times. I was like, oh, did he just push away his player who's trying to like encourage him? That's rude.
Yeah,
And I
because
was
it
like,
didn't look like Anthony. Because
I
it definitely
can't
didn't look
tell.
like Anthony Black was like, "Come on, man." It looked more like it was like, "Hey, let's go." Like it's all right, right? Like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know that those things were interesting. But the Mikel Mitchell thing looked like to me that Devo. It is hard to tell because like he looked like he was like yelling at him in a dude, we're on a run. Don't get teed up. Like, what are you doing? Like, but it's all right. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, man. But hey, great win, 4-0. I think tomorrow's we're gonna find out some stuff tomorrow, dude. Because
Crazy.
Creighton is older, experienced, ranked in the top 10, not because they had like juggernaut recruiting classes or anything. I mean, they have good recruiting classes, but because they were good last year and those dudes are back. And
Mm-hmm.
this is going to be a much more experienced team and a very good team that you're playing against who beat Texas Tech pretty easily.
And and they're a system team from what I understand.
Yeah.
And they run a very uh, precise offense. And I mean, who knows? Maybe, I mean, we're long, but like it's the kind of thing where I'll take teams that are just like more free flowing and they're going to throw bodies in there and just try to like, but like when a team is like, we screen and roll and we run set plays,
Mm.
you hope that these young freshmen, because I mean, obviously talent and skill and athleticism and all that is not their issue. But I mean, I agree with, I think Jay Billis said it, like they're going to have a freshman game where
Mm.
they just are turned around, not paying attention, turnovers, make dumb passes. And there's definitely an opportunity for Creighton to take advantage of our youth and inexperience tomorrow.
Yeah, the thing you got
So
to hope against a team that runs like
there's a
systems
moth
like
flying
that.
around in your house.
If you're running like a system like that, what you got to hope is that you can get up into them enough to not let them get into sets. Like you disrupt the set before it ever has a chance to get off the ground, right? So you make guys
Mm-hmm.
pick up their dribble before they want to. You cut off a pass lane and make them go somewhere else. It's that kind of stuff. We'll see if hey, they said
Well,
it in the
in
broadcast
some,
too. Like no one preps better than us, right? I mean, it's not like he ain't gonna know.
it's hard in these day back to back tournaments though, because
Mm.
like there's a difference between going home tonight and showing everybody film and then tomorrow having one practice, kind
Yeah,
of practice, like a non exerting practice, trying to run those things versus all, or not all week because they play 2 games a
but you
week,
got
but
like
like
three,
we're
4 days.
planning for 3 or 4 practices in a row
Yeah,
for this one guy. So it is a little bit more like it neuters his ability, which is great for Musselman to be able to get them focused on one thing and really run it. But
hey, dude, all I know is one of these 8 teams is coming out of this thing 3-0, and one's coming out 0-3. And I know we're not going to be the 0-3, so that's good. I'm going for the 3-0, but only one gets to do it. Only one. I mean, that's the thing that's crazy about like a tournament like this. You have 8 teams, and Louisville's, they're struggling right now, but all the other ones are good teams. You know, 5 ranked teams, but all good teams. And you enter a tournament like this knowing that you either win the whole thing or you do take your loss, at least one.
mm-hmm. Dude, I want to beat Ohio State.
Dude, I think we're gonna. I think
We
it's Arizona that we're gonna. I think Arizona's the team on the other side of the bracket. But
yeah. Yeah, they scare me a lot, but I don't know. We just don't play Ohio State like in basketball, like ever.
mm-hmm.
And I just don't like Ohio State as a program, period. I'll never forgive them for the Sugar Bowl and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Bosa and all that stuff. And honestly, just in general, like,
The Ohio State
the Ohio State and their stupid, like,
mascot is a nut.
drum made, or their what? Like, no,
Mascot's a
their
nut.
band, their,
It's a
I
Buckeye.
remember, dude, the Sugar Bowl, and their band is amazing. Like, they've got the best band in the country. I
Yeah,
mean, which is a stupid thing, but they
it's a stupid
embarrassed
thing.
It is, but they embarrassed our like in the Sugar Bowl. They were beating us the first half. They were beating us like a drum the first half, and then our band came out. I was in New Orleans, and like our band was just like doing, like, and then they came out, dude, and their drum major runs like defying gravity with his like head. His hat is touching the ground. He's doing that like, and somebody there,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
I was trying to get in here.
and then they did like they're doing like airplanes and like words and
Yeah.
bombs exploding all in their and then I mean luckily we had a better second half, but then we lost the game. But yeah, I and also there's just that thing we talked about this before, but with Ohio State where it does feel like, and I know we're SEC homers, but like they're just playing in a bunch of chumps over there.
Yeah.
I mean, even Michigan hasn't been. I mean, they're good now, but they haven't been good for like a decade. Like they've had a rough. They're the big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
It's
They
not
were
even like
over there beating the crap out of Northwestern and Indiana.
Rutgers and stuff. It's like at least Alabama has to run the gauntlet every when to be a dynasty. So
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, I know it has nothing to do with football, but still, I just would like an
Certain
opportunity.
teams you don't like. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for whatever reason, like my favorite basketball or sports movie really ever is Hoosiers, but I hate Indiana. You know why? Because their fans are obnoxious. Like their fans think they in their mind. Okay, and I know this has nothing to do with anything, but I'll say it. So there's blue blood programs, and in my opinion, it's Duke, North Carolina, UCLA, Kentucky, Kansas, those five. Then there's like a bunch of other ones that are really good. Michigan State's got a good history. There's lots of other ones. Louisville for a while. Indiana is in that group, but Indiana insists that they're not in that group, that they're in that other group, and they have this kind of attitude that they can like take anyone's coach anytime they want. I mean, like when they were looking for a coach, the season before last, they were talking about Muss as if they could just come and like it drive me nuts like that they were like, oh, we have Mark Cuban as one of our alumni, so we know that we can pay him more than Arkansas can. I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, first of all, like that's not a better job right now. It's not. Like, I'm not saying it's like maybe it's an equal job, but like stop pretending like you're Kansas. You're not.
Yeah, also, have you heard of Walmart?
Yeah.
Like, what is Mark Cuban's company? I know he's a billionaire, but I'm just saying, like,
I'm just saying, I don't know. So yeah, like, but it's one of those things, like, even though, so yeah, it's
I like
whenever,
Mark Cuban too, and I like the
yeah,
Mavericks, but I'm
just
just saying,
saying.
like,
So
Walmart's literally a Fortune 100 company.
yeah. I'm just
It's
saying
the biggest company that's ever existed in the history of humanity.
There's certain teams, Hey, I don't like Ohio State. I don't like Indiana in basketball, but that's because
I said 100. I meant one. It's literally
Fortune
the
what? Them and
number
Amazon.
one.
Well, Fortune 2.
But no, Walmart is number one. Walmart is bigger than Amazon still. I know Amazon probably maybe has more potential for growth, possibly. Like it's
Yeah.
neck and neck. But Walmart is the biggest company
Look at this
that
state
has
pride.
ever existed.
Sweet. All right, people checked out a long time ago on this
I know,
conversation.
but now we're just talking. So,
but well, all right, we'll let it go. Hey, Anthony Black, thanks for coming out. And
yeah, we probably do need to make these shorter. People aren't going to click on it if it's 37 minutes long.
Yeah, whatever.
You only want to hear people talk about the Hogs for maybe like 15, 20. And actually, also, guys, we're just doing this for fun anyway. But if anybody likes to listen to it, that's just awesome. So thanks, appreciate it. Thanks
yeah,
for
and if
leaving
you
comments.
like it, subscribe, leave a comment, tell a friend, whatever, man, all that stuff. And we'll be back tomorrow after the Creighton game. Hopefully talking about going to the championship. So I'm excited for that. 3 days of basketball in a row. Thanksgiving week. Love it.
Yep. It's awesome.
All right, man. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Peace.